Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be failure to launch. Well, I've got 3 emails that I'm going to go through with you. And what we're going to talk about is some of these guys are obviously struggling really bad with some of the challenges that they're having with women that they're interacting with. One of them's doing pretty good, but 2 of them just got involved in situations obviously that are not good, that can waste a tremendous amount of your time. And so obviously when things go sideways, it's going to affect your confidence. And so the key to being successful in life, not only in your personal life, but in your business or your career or taking care of your body or whatever it is, that area of your life that you're trying to work on and improve, you have to be able to manage your own internal psychology. Therefore, when you have setbacks or you come across haters, because there's always going to be someone whose opinion of you doesn't match what they think you should be, and therefore they're going to hate on you. And at the end of the day, people that are too weak to follow their own dreams, they're always going to find a way to discourage yours. And it's any time that you have that doubt or that fear or you worry that things aren't going to work out, it's amazing. It seems like the universe brings you all kinds of circumstances and people and situations to further heighten that fear. And I believe those things happen so you can grow into the fullness of the person you're supposed to be, to overcome them. To notice it's not ignoring what you see in the world that's disconcerting, but it's to not let it affect you to the point where it inhibits you from taking action. Because you can have a shitty day and then you can wake up the next day and everything be right as rain. Like for the past three weeks or so, we've had like 1 day of sun here in Orlando, and now we're going to have a period of about 3 days where the sun's out, and it's amazing driving around because you're so used to the dreary, crappy weather that it's been like. Then all of a sudden it's sunny, and it's when you have all those clouds and all that rain, and then you have a sunny day, that you really appreciate the fact that it's sunny out, because obviously Florida's called the Sunshine State. Well, it really hasn't seemed like the Sunshine State lately. But if you're in a crappy mood or you're not feeling good and you look out like, oh great, it's fucking raining. Oh, I can't go to lunch. I have to eat in today because otherwise I'm going to get fucking soaked. It spirals. It's like a snowball effect. It's like, so when you get on like one negative string on something that's happening in your life, it just seems to snowball. But the key again is always come back to your set point in your own internal psychology and push forward. Like I have a buddy of mine, very successful guy, but he doesn't come anywhere near reaching his full potential in his relationships or in his business. And it's just now recently he's finally started his own company, which he really should have done that 10 years ago. But he always tends to let things get in the way. And he lets his fear or his belief that he's not good enough to have the kind of woman that he really wants, he keeps settling for mediocrity. He's got a girl in his life he has a child with, and he's not even in love with her, and he's contemplating marrying this girl, and yet he's sleeping with 4 or 5 other girls on the side. And that's just always the way he is, because he never can really get what he wants, and so he's always constantly settling, and so he has to make up for that need somehow, and so he's always going outside the relationship to find somebody else. Or whether it happens to be his business. His business should be booming, and it should be 10 times the size that it is by now, but he just hasn't put the effort into it, and he just didn't take the initiative, because there's so many things in his life that he's not happy about and that don't bring him joy, and so he's living a life of mediocrity. That's what a lot of people do. And it's like, we were talking one time, and he was giving me a bunch of shit for how I stuck with things, and he was just like, looked at me, he's like, I just don't have the patience like you have. I don't have the patience to see things through for several years. He's like, if I'm not seeing any instant results and making money within a matter of weeks, I'm impatient, I can't take it, and I got to do something else. And it's like, that's the difference. That's the difference between a successful entrepreneur and somebody that's a wannabe entrepreneur. It's just his own internal psychology doesn't allow it. His belief system doesn't allow it, even though he wants to be successful, he wants to grow that business, and he really wants to have the kind of woman in his life that he really wants. Because he's dicking around, in essence, he's got all these mediocre things going in his life, he's just become used to settling. And now that he's in his 40s, that's pretty much how he's going to end up being the rest of his life. And to me, I find that sad. To me, it's a lot better to go for the things you want in life and not worry about it. Maybe it takes you 10 years to create the perfect life. Maybe it takes you 5. Maybe it takes you 2. Whatever. The key is that as anything in life takes time, whether it's graduating college, whether it's starting a business, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder, or it's getting to a place where you overcome your fears and your insecurities, like the email newsletter that I did yesterday about the guy that was doing great at meeting women and setting up dates and making a move, which was something that it was almost impossible before. But where the pressure point for him is that when it gets to the seduction part, he gets too impatient and he tends to rush things. And then he comes off and puts the vibe out there that he's really just trying to get in their pants. He's really not interested in who they are. It's obviously like he's in a rush. But that's his pressure point, and that's what he's trying to overcome. Now, the average person, when they encounter that, will just say, oh, it's not going to work. And so they end up hooking up with the first mediocre person that comes along, that no matter what they do, it seems they can't do anything wrong with that person. Even though they're not what they really want, they just kind of settle and go along with that. And you deserve to have a spectacular life. But if you want to have a spectacular life with spectacular people in it, you got to become spectacular yourself. We're all working on some area of our life that we're trying to improve on. If we were all perfect human beings, we wouldn't have any reason to be here on this planet. So let's get in. I've got 3 emails, like I said earlier. So let's get into the first email. Before we get into it, I got a quote that I want to share with you. And it says, most people live lives of quiet desperation inside their self-constructed prison boxes of their identities. Human beings tend to avoid rejection, failure, and not feeling good at all costs. One of the key ingredients to personal peak performance and your ability to achieve your goals and dreams is to become okay with failure, rejection, and setbacks. Otherwise, if you let your fears hold you back and hijack your life, one day you'll wake up and not like your life or the person you have become. If you spend your life trying to avoid failure, rejection, and setbacks, you'll only end up leading and living a mediocre life that is less than what you are capable of living. So let's get into the first guy's email. He says, hey coach, you answered my last email in your video, be bold and take risks without fear. I have an update to my situation that I would like some advice on. Last night my ex came over and I cooked her dinner and we had wine. After dinner she began to get sad and started crying while going over all the mistakes I made in our relationship. She is unhappy in her current rebound relationship and seems to not think it has a future because she says she is still in love with me. Well, it's good that you're opening her up and getting her to talk about all those things and express herself, and you can make her feel like, wow, he really does understand me. Maybe he actually does get it. Maybe I was wrong about him. It's a process of getting her to come back. He says she still says, though, that she has so much anger inside of her over the ways I neglected her in the past. Ever since reading your book, I've become a better man, and I know not to repeat my mistakes. Good for you, dude. Good fucking job. He says, while she was crying, I just listened to her and tried to gently reassure her and bring her out of her funk. Love's playful and fun. It's like you listen to her talk, but you're also there to make her laugh. It's like, so no matter how crappy things are, you find a way to find the humor in things, to find the good in things. And that's part of managing your own internal state. Because if you can't manage your own personal state, your own personal psychology, and have a positive, glasses half full kind of outlook on life, how are you going to manage it when your girl or your ex-girlfriend or your wife comes to you with something like this and she's upset and she's having a rough day? And on top of that, you're feeling shitty about yourself and your life. Think about it. You can't give away what you don't have for yourself. So if you don't already feel whole, happy, and complete, and excited about your life, and positive and optimistic, when your girl's having an off day, it's going to be really hard to get her out of that state. He says she said she was tired, so we went upstairs to lay down, and after lying in bed for a while, we agreed to have sex. Problem is, I came within like 5 minutes. Obviously, it had been a while. I've done a couple emails for this guy, and basically, the ex started dating some dude on a rebound, but he did no contact, waited for her to get back to him, and he started making dates, started hanging out. She's like, no, I can't go all the way. Now, of course, she's going all the way. She can't help herself. She can't stay away. She joked about it being normal in our relationship, And it was. She's just so hot. So when we laid in bed for a while and she was wanting to have more sex, I went down on her and got her off. She still wanted more, so we did it again, and this time I lasted longer. That's why you should watch the video that I did on how men can have multiple orgasms and use that strategy and that technique, so even if you blow your wad right away, you're going to be able to stay hard. And then that will no longer be an issue in your relationship. I had a girlfriend that, years ago that I was in a long distance relationship with, and so I only used to see her every few weeks because she lived several hours away from me. And so like when you don't see somebody for a week or two and then you get back together and you start having sex again after you've been without it for like 2 weeks, it's like you're not going to last very long that first time being back together again. But it's like once you get in the rhythm of things and you're having sex a lot more, it's not such a big deal and you're not so sensitive to where you blow your wad in a matter of seconds. He says afterwards she was very playful and laughing a lot, and she seemed to be having a great time. See, you opened her up beautifully, dude. Good fucking job. That's what it takes. She had some drama. She had a difficult time. She's crying, bawling her eyes out. You guys make love because you listened to her. You communicated with her on the deepest emotional and mental level. And you totally opened her up to be her playful, sexy self again. Good fucking job, dude. He says she said she had to go because her rebound was blowing up her phone, wondering where she was. She got teary again all over having to leave me. Well, she obviously cares about you. I assured her that I'm here for her and not to be a stranger, and she made one more crack about me coming too quick the first time and then split. If it bothers you and she sees that it bothers you, that's why she's going to needle you about it. That's why women do that, to get you to grow, to become stronger, to not let that shit affect you. That's the beauty of being in a relationship with a woman or having girlfriends like that, is that they see your weaknesses and they'll point them out to you. Because they deserve your best, and that's what she's calling you to do, is to give your absolute best. He says, my question to you is, what's your take on the whole night where do I go from here? I have to say, the whole coming back thing has got my anxiety, or coming quick thing has got my anxiety going a bit, and this doesn't happen with other women, just her. Like I said, watch the video, how men can have multiple orgasms, and practice that. Maybe a couple hours before she's going to come over, you beat the bishop for a half hour, 45 minutes, take your time, and then that way when you have sex, you're not so, blow your wad right away. But other than that, I think you're doing great. Just wait for her to get in touch with you, because again, she's with another guy. So when she gets in touch, because he's chasing her and blowing her phone up, and obviously it's pushing her right back into your arms. Hang out, have fun, hook up. It's really simple, dude. You're doing fantastic. Good fucking job for you for recognizing what you needed help with and doing the work on yourself so you can turn things around. So let's get into the second email. This guy says, hey coach, below in quotation marks is her decision. He says, I tried hanging out, having fun, but the hooking up, well... So she says, hi, I just wanted to send you an email because I'm bad at talking about this over phone and in person. After the initial shock, it was actually funny and interesting yesterday. I really think you're an amazing guy. You're personable, easygoing, and also good looking. So thanks for showing me a good time again. I definitely enjoy spending time with you, talking to you, etc. I don't care what anyone says, since the dates that you took me on to, the museums and stuff, were great. And they're different ideas, and it's one of the reasons why I like you. This sounds like a friend zoning letter. She says, first of all, what I want to say has nothing to do with the sex. Really? Well, why'd you bring it up? Because obviously it affects the chemistry when you get together with her and you're not able to perform. She thinks either A, there's something wrong with you, or A, you're not really that into her. It just creates a weird vibe, especially if you make the moment awkward, which most guys do, because obviously that's a pretty disconcerting moment when you're ready to roll and the general won't stand at attention. She says, I'm confident I have had experiences in that area, and I'm usually not shy after a while. Every person is different, so sometimes it takes time to understand someone. I am a physical person, and I usually kiss, etc. a lot, but I want to get to know someone first. It's just that even though I think you're good looking and all these things, I just don't feel it like that. Maybe the chemistry after some dates. Please don't think it's because of the not coolness as you said yesterday. Well, that tells me he's talking bad about himself, self-deprecating, you think you're not worthy, and those things are coming out. And so you're allowing your negative internal self-talk, you're expressing that to her. That, hey, I don't think I'm cool. I'm not good enough for you. That's what you're communicating to her. And so when she sees you're not able to perform and you're talking like, oh, I'm not good enough for you, then she thinks, well, this guy doesn't think he's good enough for me. It's a total turnoff. We all want an equal. We want somebody that feels like, that believes that we're a catch and that we also believe that is a catch. But you're communicating, I'm not worthy and I'm not a catch. Remember, every member of the opposite sex wants to hook up with the most dominant member of the opposite sex. And you're not acting like the most dominant member here. She says, that's actually why I like you, and it's all pretty strange because I like your personality and your appearance and the fact that you're different than me in some ways. I don't know why. I guess some things are like that, not meant to be. You see what happens when you don't act masculine? It's like women don't, she doesn't understand what's happening to herself. She doesn't understand why her attraction, because she's like, you're attractive, you've got a great personality, but there's just some reason why I'm just not turned on by you. And that's what she's communicating. And she doesn't understand it herself. But it's all because you're not acting masculine. When you couldn't get it up, obviously it was a problem. And you made it into a much bigger issue than it really needed to be, instead of modifying your approach and pulling out some oils and massaging her and taking your time with her. But this is how you learn. You learn from these experiences. I've had these kinds of experiences too, and they're painful and they hurt and they suck. But this is how you learn. It's okay. You got to become okay with failure like this. She says, I think to be with someone, there has to be mental attraction and physical compatibility too. And it's hard for me to say this because I do like you, but I don't like to lie about these things. I also don't like to lead you on. I mean, it's best for you too. You'll be with someone when everything clicks. I also don't know if I can be with someone right now. That was a BS statement. Women always say something along those lines when they're friend zoning you. All about trying to protect your feelings. But you can tell from this letter, she doesn't really understand why she's losing interest. It's like mentally, she's like, I should be totally into this guy, but I'm not. And she's like, oh, it's chemistry. What the reality is sexual polarity evaporated when you got out of your masculine and your feminine and started acting totally unsure of yourself. She says, too much to focus on. You can always add me on Facebook if you're not pissed off at me, but I understand you don't need a female pal in your life. She says also, please be who you are. Don't change for anyone. There's nothing wrong with you other than the fact that you weren't acting masculine. Really believe me, otherwise I would have left after the first date. Example, I'm single and there's nothing wrong with me. Okay, a couple of things, but I'm human and no one is perfect. Anyway, take care. Don't worry. Don't want to bother you again. Just want to say this instead of a lame text. He says, she already tried to friend zone me on texting once before, and I followed your advice on your website, sent her a reply afterwards, and she came calling for me. He says, this time I fear it's really a bit more serious. This is the second time I brought her back to my place to have sex post-drinks and being drunk. Well, you were too drunk. He says, once again, my member completely failed, even though she is quite nice. But even when kissing her in public, etc., when sober, I get no real erection. Perhaps I put her on a pedestal and one can't force the feeling. Yeah, your problem is you're all wound up about what's going on internally, and you're worried. You're fearful about the future. You're fearful that things aren't going to work out. And obviously you really like this girl, and that can happen. So, again, another good article for you to read is just like the guy above. How that I read previously is how men can have multiple orgasms. If you're having a problem with that or performance anxiety, when you get to the point where you can have multiple orgasms by yourself, in other words, you blow your wad and you still stay hard and you're able to get yourself off time and time again, that will take away the fear of having to perform, even if you come like in 30 seconds or something like that, or in 5 minutes like the first guy, because you won't worry, because you'll be able to stay hard, because your body, you've trained your body to know what that feels like. But what I would do in this particular case is I would just respond to her email and say, hey, thanks for the email. It was just one night. If you're ready to call it quits, that's great. But if you change your mind, I'd like to give you and I another try. Get in touch with me. See you later. And that's it. Walk and never look back. Exactly the same thing that you did before. And what typically will happen is she'll think, maybe I was a little too quick to rush to judgment. Because most guys won't walk away after something like this happens. They keep pursuing, trying to change your mind. But the guy who's a catch and the masculine thing to do is say, hey, I'm not interested in that. It was, give me a call if you change your mind. And you walk and you never look back. You may never hear from her, but that's the best thing you can do when you're in this situation. So let's get into the third and final email. And this guy says, hey coach, I approached this girl I thought was cute through Facebook because we had some mutual friends in common. We started chatting via Facebook Messenger back in mid-January just before my birthday. In the beginning, we talked via Facebook for long periods of time because we had so much in common and which really heightened my attraction for her. That's definitely a bad way to go because you friend zone yourself by acting this way and not being direct and getting to the point. And so you start interacting with a woman in a friendship vibe only, like the gay male girlfriend or therapist type vibe. He says, I messaged her and initiated contact with her because I think she's gorgeous and exactly my type. Outgoing, spontaneous, smart, charming, classy, and beautiful. She has one of those smiles and personalities that just lights up a room. It's really nice to date I like outgoing women, women that are very talkative and they have no problem chatting up people in an elevator or a grocery store or a checkout line, wherever. I like friendly people. He says, during our conversations, I kept pushing to meet up and she eventually agreed to a happy hour in late February after almost a month of us talking back and forth. Way too long, dude. There lies the rub. Since it wasn't from a lack of me trying for the meetup or to set a definite plans with her. Maybe the problem is that when you try to set plans, you kept talking and talking and talking and talking. Instead of just saying, hey, well, when you figure out your schedule, get in touch with me and let her reach out to you. You're over pursuing at this point. He says, we eventually did end up meeting for a happy hour and we had a really great time together. And I know I should have gone for the kiss that day because there was a lot of chemistry between us, but I held off. He says, mistake, I know. That's your problem in the whole thing. Your own internal psychology is fearful it's not going to work out. Oh, I don't want to screw this up. I got a whole fucking month invested and I'm finally with this girl. And then you don't make a move on her. And so what she sees through the messaging and the phone calls and the emails is a guy who's lacking confidence, a typical nice guy, and that's 97% of the dudes that she encounters, that's the way they act. They don't take the initiative, they're not direct, they're not decisive, they don't get right to the point. When she says, I can't, or I'm busy, it's like he's flexible and goes along with everything in hopes that she'll change her mind. And so you're putting her on a pedestal. And that communicates that you don't have a lot going on in your personal life and you don't feel like you're worthy. And therefore, what she sees online is exactly what she sees in person. And so that forms her picture of you. You're a friend zone type of guy. You're not the type of guy that she'd want to date and hook up with because you're not totally being in your masculine. Because you're in essence submitting and going along with her desire to be a friend only. And that's definitely going to give you a sure case of blue balls. So he says, since communication started with my approach online, we continued to chat via Facebook, then graduating to GChat, and then of course texting and some phone conversations, talking about everything under the sun. We developed a great rapport and a real understanding for one another, or so I thought. Yeah. You definitely created a whole fantasy in your head, and you were thinking one thing while she was thinking something else, and so you obviously were very guarded in what you wanted and what you thought about her because you were taking the friendship route. Why? Because that was the safe route. He says, I continued to push for more date-type situations, but she seemed only comfortable with happy hours and not much more, so I held back on pushing for dates. He kept going along with what she wanted, hoping things would change. That's not what a masculine man would do. If you perceive yourself as a catch, you're going to be like, you're great and everything, but this just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. I'd love to meet you out for a drink, but I mean, not that you're going to say things specifically in that order, but that's what you're going to be thinking inside. You're going to be like, I got all kinds of options here. Why would I want to waste my time with a girl? It's like, why? It's just not, it's not worth it. Life's too short, man. I had a friend of mine whose mother just passed away recently, and it was a very beautiful experience. The whole passing away, and it's like, and she shared the story of like her last day and her last couple of days and everything she went through, and she became very cognizant, whereas past, year or two, she was totally out of it. But those last few days that she was alive, she was like totally knew who she was and what was going on. She knew she was dying, and she was just kind of like, I mean, she didn't really care one way or another. She lived a complete full life, had a lot of kids. Everybody loved her. All her grandkids loved her. And she had total peace and contentment. And it's just like, when you hear that, you're that close to that, and you know that person, and it's like you gotta get fucking busy, dude. Life is short, and when you waste your time, months of your life, fucking around like this, you don't want to be on your deathbed thinking about, oh man, I wish I'd have gotten to the point with that fucking girl already. I wish I'd have asked that girl out, or I wish I'd have, I wish I'd have taken the initiative more. I wish I'd have started that business. I wish I'd have asked for that promotion. It's like you don't want to be thinking like that. He says, I asked around on 4-date type situations over the course of 5 months. You can't get those 5 months back. They are fucking gone, dude. And he says, but she was either out of town, had other plans, or wasn't able to meet for whatever reason. That's why you say, when are you free to get together? I'd love to meet up. And she says, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you. Then great, figure it out and get back to me. And when she gets back to you, maybe it's a week later, hey, great to hear from you. So what'd you figure out your schedule and your availability? Oh, I don't know. I just wanted to chit-chat and catch up. I'm not sure yet. Great. Well, I'm real jammed up right now, but I definitely would love to see you figure out your schedule and get back in touch with me, and we'll plan something then. Because she's wasting your time otherwise. She's keeping you in friend zone, which is where she wants to keep you because you're not strong enough to stand up to her. He says she was okay with us meeting in a non-date type of situation. She went to Europe twice this year, once in April and May, and she must have liked me enough because she sent me a postcard and went out of her way to buy dark chocolates for me when she was in Europe, which she knew I loved. We only ended up hanging out twice on one-on-one and twice with our groups of friends in the course of 5 months. Yeah, she was definitely controlling things in the group of friends because, hey, you're not going to really try anything in a group of friends. The one-on-one meets were both happy hours, and the group meets were once at a club and once in Vegas when we were both there with our different groups of friends. Every time we've been together, she's been flirtatious with me, but whenever I asked her on a date, she'd either have plans, be out of town, or have a prior engagement. I knew something was up, but it wasn't until we got back from Vegas that I really pressed the situation, asking her out again. She finally came clean with me and mentioned that she had started talking to her ex-boyfriend again of 5 years, although they had broken up the previous October and hadn't been intimate since then. So she said, but who knows? That fucking sucks. They had been talking, and she said she couldn't meet me out on a date until she had cut off all communication with him and actually ended things. See what I mean? It's like what typical nice guys do. They're just waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm going to get my shot. I'm going to get my shot. It's like, I did this so many fucking times in my 20s, I want to fucking pull my hair out. It's like, but hey, I learned that shit didn't work, and I learned that I wasted years of my life. So it's like, don't do that, man, because life is too short. He says, I told her thanks for being honest with me, but she needed to figure things out, and I pulled back completely in early July, right before the 4th of July. I didn't really talk to her again until late July when I called her on the phone and tried to get her to make definite plans with me. You're still pursuing. You said figure things out with your ex and then get in touch with me if you want to see me. And then what happened? You didn't stick to that. You waited a few weeks, you didn't hear from her, you got worried, and you reached out. That's what makes you look weak. Because a guy who is a catch, he's moving on to the next girl. He's not waiting. Because if you're not getting together with somebody in person, it's really fucking irrelevant. I mean, chemistry happens in person. Making love happens in person. You get to know somebody in person. But when you just talk over the internet like this, you just become like an emotional outlet for her. And you waste your life. She said she really enjoys spending time with me and wants to do happy hour, and I just left it as maybe sometime, since I figured she must have still been talking to her ex. After that phone conversation, I stopped talking to her on the phone. I ceased communicating with her online on a regular basis, and we went from talking almost every other day to only talking sporadically, and I ceased texting too. You were blowing her up, dude. Bad fucking way to go. I essentially left things as is, but she continued to reach out to me and like things on my Facebook and commenting, trying to keep me engaged with her online to some extent. I didn't really play into it too much, but I did correspond with her on a number of occasions. That's when you say, hey, I really want to see you, but you're dating somebody. So if it doesn't work out, get in touch with me. But the problem is you tell her things like that, and then you go right back on your word a day or two later. That's weakness. You're submitting to her will. You're acting feminine, and that's why you're getting put in that place. Fast forward to the end of summer, around mid-September mark, where she officially put that she was single on Facebook and then promptly took a 3-week family trip to Europe. She returned from her trip to Europe with family, and I promptly left for Europe 2 weeks myself. I posted a note on my social network saying I was in Europe. She told me that she can't wait to hear about my trip when I got back. And I took that as a sign she wanted to meet up with me. So when I got back, I reached out to set up a definite date. This time, she was completely open to us going out for dinner or something together. I opted for dinner, but due to scheduling problems on my end, not hers, we put off dinner until after I got back to town after Thanksgiving. Needless to say, this brings me to now. I'm writing this because she's obviously been dating since she's been single since August, September time. Wow, that's brutal, dude. And while we weren't really talking much, I found out that she's now dating someone officially. See? It's like you keep waiting, you keep waiting, you keep waiting. You got nothing else going on in your personal life, and you're hovering around her, being typical nice guy. And what happens? You're a nice backup plan in case she doesn't find anybody better, and then someone comes along and acts like a man, he's in his masculine, and she gets serious with him. I mean, that fucking sucks. I know what that's like. He says, as of Friday, the guy seems to be a part of her immediate circle of friends, so already he had a leg up on me in that department. The relationship she recently ended occurred in late September when it was a long 5-year one. I will say that I didn't puke my feelings out to her, but she obviously knows that I like her. He says, after reading your book and watching some of your videos, I can see all the mistakes that I was making. And so I'm not going to go through the rest of his email because it's pretty much more of the same, but he basically wants to know what he should do now. Because he did plan on meeting up with her to go to dinner, I guess after Thanksgiving, but he really didn't make definite plans. It was just kind of a maybe date. Quite frankly, you can see from Facebook she's dating somebody else. And she knows you're interested in her, and yet she doesn't tell you that she's dating somebody. So if I were you, I would do fucking absolutely nothing. I would walk from this situation, chalk it up to experience, and say, fuck that. If she ever reaches out to you in the future, and you see that she's got a boyfriend just say, hey, I'd really love to get to dinner with you, have dinner, but obviously you're in a relationship with somebody else at this point, so that would be inappropriate. So if it doesn't work out, get in touch with me and we'll reschedule those dinner plans, and good luck with the guy you're with. Have a nice day and leave it at that. It's the only thing you can really do with that case. But it's like the key is like all these emails is standing up for yourself, living your truth, standing up for what you want, and not getting involved in situations like this where you can waste months and even years of your life hoping that things are going to change with somebody. It's like you got to act like a man. You got to be decisive. You got to go for what you want and not let failures or the fact that you couldn't get it up or a girl that didn't return your phone call or that employer that you really wanted that job and they hired somebody else. You can't let those things get you down. What you got to understand is that those things are happening for a reason. And there's a better situation down the road that's just waiting for you, but you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep taking action because it's in continuing to circulate that you open yourself up for that much better possibility. Because otherwise, if you just sit and sulk over what was or what didn't work out, you close yourself off and you suffer. You close yourself off from any new possibilities and you suffer because you want the past and the present to be other than it is. Instead of just accepting it and saying, hey, you know what, my time's going to fucking come. Better will come. And you keep moving forward. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to book a paid phone, Skype, or email session with me. And you can choose any of those options by going to my website, clicking the products tab on any page, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.